Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Spinner Reviews. And today I'm going to be talking about the new album from Passion Pit called Kindred. So Passion Pit's an indie pop project who's been around for about 7 years or so. Their first two albums, Manners in 2009 and my personal favorite, Gossamer in 2012, built up quite a bit of hype in the indie world and even a bit of crossover success with the minor hit Take a Walk. Now, for those unfamiliar, Passion Pit's sound is definitely a love it or hate it one. Unapologetically bright, sunny indie pop, fronted by lead member Michael Angelikos' very high, bubbly delivery. I personally like it, but I can perfectly understand if someone brushes it off for being a little too sugary for their tastes. But ironically enough, a big part of Passion Pit's appeal to me, especially on Gossamer, was in the way they took this sound and sort of contrasted it with these very deeply personal, introspective, and even depressive lyrics. Granted, I'm not quite as in love with this kind of juxtaposition when Passion Pit does it as when, say, 21 Pilots does it, but it definitely helped make Passion Pit unique within their scene and genre. On this third album, Kindred, though, it's pretty clear Michael's taking a bit of a turn in terms of the subject matter, talking about stuff that's a lot more positively focused. Like, there's definitely more of a romantic angle to a lot of the songs on this album than there were on either of the two previous albums, which is emphasized in the title of the album as well. Now, there's nothing at all inherently wrong with this. In fact, I'm the last guy you'll catch getting all pissed off at some band or artist for not talking about the same struggles they did in their past stuff. After all, musicians are just people, and people naturally change over time. But I feel like with this shift in particular, it sort of causes a change in the dynamic of Passion Pit's music. See, like I said, a lot of Passion Pit's appeal to me was in that underlying darkness in the lyrics that kind of brought the songs back to earth to keep them from getting, too ridiculously happy and smiley and stuff. But when you have songs on here like Lift It Up 1985 and Until We Can't, Let's Go, that are just both musically and lyrically over the top, upbeat, and beating you over the head with happiness, then it just simply ends up going overboard in my opinion. And it doesn't help that the production on this album is a lot more immediate and in-your-face and bombastic than before, even by Passion Pit standards, which can make the more typical Passion Pit sounding songs on here kinda overwhelming, and not in a good way. I actually considered Until We Can't a favorite of mine for the first listen or two, but after a while it just started grating on me, and now I can barely get through it anymore. But at the same time, Kindred also shows Passion Pit being a bit more, restrained at times. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like stripped down acoustic stuff, this is still Passion Pit we're talking about, but most of my favorite songs here are when it's not quite so 100% bombastic and cranked up, and Michael sings a bit more in his middle register. Kind of the opposite of my experience with Until We Can't was another one of the singles from this thing, Where the Sky Hangs, which grew on me immensely since I first heard it. It sort of takes that smooth, almost R&B influenced sound of Constant Conversations from Gossamer and gives it a bit more of a poppy groove to some great effect. In fact, you can even hear it in some of the more upbeat songs on the album, like 5'10" and My Brother Taught Me How to Swim. It's not exactly sparse per se, but they're just really well constructed and produced pop songs that don't feel the need to fill every nook and cranny of the mix with some kind of synth noise. I also want to talk about the song Whole Life Story. Now, for those who don't know, in 2012, Michael revealed to the public that he has bipolar disorder, which was a motivator for a lot of the lyrics on Gossamer, and more subtly on other Passion Pit stuff. And of course, with that came all kinds of media attention, and this song's basically about him and vicariously his wife dealing with people trying to make assumptions about or sensationalize their lives. It's one of my personal favorites here lyrically, as well as musically. Like, I love the little vintage keyboard sample that runs throughout the song. Meanwhile, I'm really enjoying the almost classic pop vibe of All I Want, which is a little more guitar driven than other songs come out of this project, and probably one of the catchiest, frankly. If they're planning on putting out another single from this album, then this is definitely my first choice. I'll admit that not every move in this direction really did it for me. Dancing on the Grave just left no impression on me whatsoever, and even though I generally like it in other areas, the lyrics in Looks Like Rain can get kinda silly at times. Also, to be blunt, 10 Feet Tall was a terrible choice for the closer, with the egregious vocal effects and annoyingly over-the-top instrumentation. It was like a compilation of everything I complained about with this album in the past few minutes. But like I said, when Passion Pit does pull the things back and let the songs breathe a little, it does work a lot better with, again, the more optimistic lyrics going along with it. Overall, Kindred is quite a mixed bag. You can tell it's a bit of a transitional album for Michael, trying to break out of that mold and avoid getting pigeonholed, as is probably the best course of action, but still trying to hold on to that old sound that made him big to begin with. All in all, it results in my least favorite Passion Pit album to date, but still a decent one, and I'm gonna give it a 6.5. So if you guys have heard this album, what do you think about it? Do you agree with what I have to say? Disagree? Have any feedback about the channel in general? Let me know in the comments down below. I've shared this around with anyone who might be interested. Like the Facebook page in the description for updates, and hopefully I'll see you in the next episode of Spinner Reviews.